That song you love is on right now, not later, not on a playlist, not something you have to pay for. I mean live, right now. That's called radio. In Seattle, that's called Warm 106.9.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Marilyn Milano, and I am here with a special guest for a special conversation today. We are welcoming life and career coach Aubrie Clerck. And Aubrie specializes in big life changes. It might be a divorce, having a baby, changing jobs, quitting your job, starting a job. There are so many things that affect us. And as she so aptly put it, think about a mobile over a baby's crib. Pull on one thing and it affects all other things. They're changing, they won't be the same. And so what Aubrie can help people do, and what she has been helping people do, and we'll have her talk a little bit more about that and introduce herself in just a minute, she helps people get through these times with clarity, thinking of things sensibly. Certainly we have to take our emotions into account, but she, as a person who coaches people through this, can step back, get a clear look. So you will get a clear look as well. And with that clarity, you will be able to make decisions that you will feel good about, that you will feel resonate with you, and that should work well for you moving forward. So first of all, let's welcome Aubrie Clerck. Aubrie, so glad you could be here today.
Thanks for having me, Marilyn.
I'm really looking forward to hearing more of your story and how you happened to get into this. Now, this is your 18th year in private practice, I understand.
That is correct.
Yes.
Hard to believe.
Yeah. And you had 10 years at Nike in IT and a global diversity.
Yeah.
So tell me how you moved from working in IT for a major company like Nike to doing what you are doing now. I would love to hear more of the story.
Well, it surprised me. I think that I had ideas for myself about what I wanted to do, and I always wanted to help people. And I kind of fell into doing some work at Nike. I fell into doing work at IT at Nike, and I always had that spark inside to think about how I could do something to help other people. And that spark grew and changed at different points of my career, including doing the work for the Office of Global Diversity, which was getting on a special project to help people with an assessment about their satisfaction at work for all global employees across the world, and learned a lot about work satisfaction for people and what it means to them and how connected that is with other parts of their life.
Yes.
And that gave a spark to me of thinking about, oh, this is a place where I could really help people. And so that took me to nonprofit work and then into entrepreneurship. And I think it's one of those things where you end up at a crossroads in life and you're not exactly sure what the other side's going to look like, but something's pulling you through. And that happened for me.
Well, I mean, I think there are people who have a drive inside, whatever they are doing, where they have a desire to help others. Maybe it's because they have been through something. Maybe it's because they just know that they can take a look at what's going on from an objective perspective and still view that with compassion and clarity. And so you had some big life changes yourself that kind of propelled you in this direction, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my mom had MS and she lived in a nursing home for 16 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was so hard. I mean, she had a really, really strong will to live. She was always very clear that she wanted to be alive. And so, but there was a lot to the caregiving. There was a lot to watching and supporting and doing well and not doing so well and supporting her with a chronic illness in that way.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
she passed in 2016. So supporting her through that time and through to her death is one of the most formative things that's ever happened for me.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, I lost a parent many years ago, but she had maybe a year with really supportive care. I cannot imagine 16 years in a care facility. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And it's a real passage of life. And I don't know how you feel about it, Marilyn, but when losing a parent feels very archetypal.
Yeah.
There's the person we lose, but then we're also losing their role in the family. And then I remember it was funny, I was lying on the couch, I don't know how long it was after she died, and I thought, oh my gosh, I had such purpose. It was very difficult. And not that I was always, you know, a great daughter. Sometimes I wonder, but like when I thought about it, I thought, this has been such a focus of my life. What now?
Right.
What
Right.
now after 16 years? I mean, yes, I had a full-time job and had things I cared about doing, and I was married at the time, and so it wasn't like I didn't have other things in my life, but it was such a central part of why I felt like I was here.
Yes. And I've talked to other people who have given care for a long time. There's someone I know that spent close to 18 years caring for her partner, and then he passed away. And she felt like she was re-entering the world again because
Yes.
everything had been devoted to taking care of this person. And and things really do change. And then you also had some other things that happened after losing your mom or in conjunction with losing your mom.
Yeah, well, I went through a divorce. Wow. I mean, I remember telling somebody, I thought, okay, once I lost my mom, I thought, hopefully that is the hardest thing I'll go through in my life in terms of grief, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And and when I got divorced, it was a really shocking kind of grief. Was not aware of how the loss would be different, how
Mm-hmm.
the pain would be different, and
Mm-hmm.
again, how another sense of identity would be different. And it was different than with the loss of my mom in a lot of ways, but in one particular way was I had this idea of I knew that my mom was going to pass, right? Like I didn't know when and I didn't know how, but I knew that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I didn't think my marriage was going to end.
Mm.
I
Mm.
didn't, I had a whole future in my mind about who I was going to be and what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of coming out from and thinking about what's next. For sure, both are grief and sure, both are identity. And, but when you come out of the intense grieving place, there's a, there's a what's next that comes that's specific to whatever you just went through,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
I think so too. And I mean, grief can come in many forms. It can be the loss of a marriage or a parent or friend or partner. And it can also be the loss of a job. Many people
Oh,
went
yeah.
through that during COVID. It can be the loss of your identity if you were tied in with your job. And I mean, like your
Yeah.
identity as a caregiver, your identity as a wife, as a partner. And those things can really throw people off their game. And so, I mean, I'm trying to get the timeline now. Did you decide you wanted to do this work after these things happened, or were you starting to transition to this work during these times?
During. So I made this transition, like, so there's a couple parts of the transition. One was doing the work for the Office of Global Diversity. I really think of that as the beginning of the transition. That was happening when my mom got transferred to care. And that was important because I felt like I had some more flexibility with my day and my time to be available for things
Mhm.
because there was somebody that was available to help her when she needed it. And
Yeah.
so that happened. And then I made that career transition to nonprofit after that. And my mom was in the care facility. And then I actually met my husband and got laid off from that job in the same year. Talking about this, Marilyn, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, don't you kind of wonder? I mean, I won't go into my story here, but a lot of us have had different things where we just kind of have one thing after the other. And you're,
Yeah.
how did I do that?
Yeah. How do we do that? How do we as humans do that? Right? Like, and I mean, I mean, it's absolutely transformative when I think about it and painful. And so, happy is such a strange word to use, but there's times when on the other side of things I've been very happy, but it's, it may be happier than I've ever been in my whole life. But this idea, so then I ended up, I lost my job. I met my husband at the time and we got married. And I started my practice. And then my mom died. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I'm of the age where both my parents are gone now. I
Yeah.
lost the full-time work I was doing during COVID. A lot of different things. And I mean, of course, again, being a boomer myself, I've lost friends and other
Sure.
people. And
Sure.
so, and I mean, I've also served as a pet loss support person for over 10
Yes.
years now for the shelter, the animal shelter here in Seattle. And so the only thing I've learned is that everyone's grief and going through transitions is individual, but there are some common threads. So what have you found to be really consistent in terms of what people go through when they are going through a transition? And not all transitions are bad. I mean, maybe getting married,
Sure.
it could be a good thing. Maybe somebody inherits some money, you know. I don't
Right.
want you to say, well, not all surprises are bad, but
No, absolutely not. For people, having children is often a milestone and a crossroads that's so joyful,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But,
was
but
actually have a client who she had her first child a few years ago. They're planning to have another one. And but she was saying like, hey, since I've had my child, I go back to work, and my North Star at work used to be that I was going to go up and up and up in the ladder, right? It's going to continue to grow in title and responsibility. And she's like, I don't think I really want that, but now I feel really lost as to what I want.
right. Because I think as our lives change, our priorities can change, or maybe the
Absolutely.
world changes and our priorities change. I mean, sometimes change is foisted upon us, like COVID again. I mean,
Yes.
that changed a lot of people. Maybe we weren't really ready for that or really wanting to deal with it. There it was. And so, I mean, you said some interesting things when we were talking before. You said change isn't linear. We're
Yeah.
all unique with our own path, but these things tend to be consistent in
Yep.
weathering, grounding, openness, um, and the fact that the change becomes clear. So, I mean,
Yep.
what have you seen in this? What would you tell people that might be wondering? Number one, you know, how do I get through this? And number two, you know, how might you be able to help them in their journey?
Yeah. So what I found is that oftentimes there's a lot of, when we're going through these things, there's a lot of stirring up and confusion,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's one, I think is like, that's natural. There's nothing wrong with a person when that's happening. Just like that you're mentioning, that mobile above a baby's crib, that thing moves and then it settles and then it calms down. Like there's this natural pattern. Like there's a fantastic book by William Bridges. It's, gosh, decades old, and they keep updating it, but it's really useful. And it talks about all transitions of all kinds have endings, neutral zones, and new beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes there's some sort of ending a life where you were single, ending a life when you had a child, ending a job by, choice or by chance, or the things we've been talking about grief, right?
Right.
So the endings in themselves don't have to be sorrowful in essence, right? But something is ending.
Yes.
And that's life is just a series of endings and neutral zones and beginnings, tiny, tiny ones up to giant big ones. And so when he talks about endings, that's the great book. Everybody pick it up, take a look at it. It'll help you with looking back at endings in your life and applying them to where you are. And then the neutral zone is not neutral at all to me. It feels very confusing. It can be exciting at times, it can be scary, all of those things. And when people are in that neutral zone, there's things to help understand and be a part of that this is an important place to be. So getting grounded in the fact that being in a space of not knowing and uncertainty is important. It's uncomfortable. I know there's many times I go to practitioners and I'll be like, will you just tell me what to do so I can get through this and not have to feel this way for very long?
Right. Because it's uncomfortable to not know. We've been taught to have a plan, you know.
For everything, for
Yes.
everything. And the thing about it is that, so the majority of the work that I do, so people say, oh, you're a life coach, you're a career coach. And I'm like, absolutely, I do both of those things. But in essence, what I'm helping people do, no matter which area that's in, is I help guide people through uncertainty.
And I think most of us would have loved to have had a guide through uncertainty as we look back at some of the events in our lives. I mean, I know I have one friend who has said to me, well, I need to have a plan for everything and have everything planned out and know how it's going to work. I said, but that's kind of an illusion because something like
Mm.
COVID, a death in the family, maybe some really good fortune, it can change things. But I think, I don't know if it's our American culture or what it is, but we are uncomfortable. We want to have a plan. I know I do. I want to have a plan. I want to know how it's going to be. I want to figure out it's all going to be okay and know what I'm going to do. And getting comfortable sitting in that uncertain space can be uncomfortable for people. And I mean, I just, I think that what you're offering is so valuable. And it can be, again, a person going into retirement. Maybe they've had health issues,
Yeah,
uh,
right.
just practical needs. Now, before we continue, I just want to make sure that we give your website address so people can go there if they want to contact you or learn more in more detail.
Yeah, it's coachingforclarity.net.
Okay, coachingforclarity.net. And in
Yes.
case somebody just joined the show, we are talking with Aubrie Clerck. This is her business. And she has been talking about, uh, what happens when people go through change. And so, what might a person who's listening to you now take as a clue that maybe they could benefit from this? I mean, they may be thinking, could that be me? I mean, what would you tell people to listen for in their own head as they're listening to you that might identify the fact that they're in a place where this could be helpful to them?
Yeah, what other things can be they're not sure what's next. So if they're coming through an experience and they're ready to look and see what's coming, but they don't know where to start or what's next,
Mm,
right? I remember that time I was talking about on the couch with my mom. It's like, okay, I was doing this with my mom for a long time. What now? Who am I going to be now?
right,
What's this going to look like?
right.
And when people are out of a place, and I don't mean out of because I don't tend to think that grief, ends. And I know that from your grief work with that you do is that, our grief continues on, but there's usually a point, and it's not a preset time, though, when something inside of us stirs and says, it's it's time to start looking at who we're going to be now,
Mm-hmm,
or what life is going to look like now.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
I
that's one strong marker.
Yes, I mean, I was shocked when my work went away.
Yeah,
We were in work from home mode, but COVID had hit. It was in full force, and a large chunk of us were let go, and there was no warning. I mean, I'd been doing the job, making my numbers, everything. It wasn't like I was thinking this was going to happen, nor was anybody
right.
else. And I just remember the first feeling was shock. It's again the stages of grief: shock, denial,
Yeah.
all of those things, anger, bargaining, and acceptance. And the same with when someone dies unexpectedly or when we lose a pet unexpectedly. And it's always hard, whether it's unexpected or not. But I
Yeah.
think the unexpectedness of it adds that shock portion that rattles us even a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Job loss is big. I remember, when I'm in my career coaching work, I'm like, job loss is life loss, right? Like all of these things are connected. And um, especially when it comes in a situation where it's someone else's decision.
Right, right. I mean, it's hard enough if we make a choice or if it's a mutual choice because we know we need to be out of there. Maybe it's toxic. Maybe we're going on to a different thing for various reasons.
Yeah.
But when a decision is foisted upon you, whether it is breaking up, a divorce, losing your gig, um, things that you really didn't have a say in, and then there you are, and you've been dealt a hand of cards, and you're like, man, I'm glad this isn't a poker game because I think I would have just lost my shirt here. But
Yeah. It,
uh,
there's a death doula in Canada. Her name's Sarah Kerr, if I'm remembering it correctly. And she talks about how when we're going through transition and change, that there's the outside of our lives and then there's our soul.
mhm,
And that these two things can end up moving in life at different phases, right? So if I've been laid off, I know that. And so being laid off, right? The soul's got to catch up. Our insides have to catch up to the reality of what just happened on the outside,
right,
right? And then there's sometimes I'm just working with a young woman in New York right now, and she's, trying to find a new job, and she's so ready for change. She's so ready for change, but the outside is not there yet. So
mhm,
when we're in these times of transitions, I like how Sarah talks about that there's these places where basically our insides and our outsides have not lined up.
right,
And we're
right,
actually trying to work through a natural thing that happens, which is part of our growth as human beings.
right.
That the soul and the outside of our lives and kind of sometimes leapfrog each other. And
Well,
sometimes in really joyful ways and sometimes in really, really hard ways.
I know. I've always likened it to you're like one of those rubber blow up clowns, and things keep happening. And sometimes they punch you down, and then at one point there's no more air, and the clown doesn't come up off the floor. And you're thinking, how am I going to do this? So now I know I want to make sure we have time to cover a couple of things. It's just amazing how fast time goes when it's an interesting topic and a wonderful guest like yourself. But you have some free workbooks, and tell me more about those.
Yeah, there's a couple workbooks. One is called Weathering Work Change, and it's a bunch of articles that I've written, put together, and has I never know if this is a good thing to say or not, but there's like over 100 inquiries in that, and sometimes people are like, I'm not looking at that because that's too many inquiries, but you don't have to read them all. But they're bulked out in different sections, and it's really there to support people who are going through work change. You can apply it to all kinds of change, but it was written with work change in mind. Just kind of get that grounded, like we were talking about before. You asked me, and I don't think I answered it directly, which is like the stages, or completely, which is like, okay, we got to get grounded. And from a grounded place, then we can start looking at possibilities. We can be open and start being creative and start looking. And then there's a naturalness to the change that starts to happen because there's going to be mystery involved.
Yes.
That we wouldn't have expected, and we want to make some room for that. So the workbook for Weathering Work Change is specifically got a lot of inquiries and articles in it. And then the other one is called Threads, and it's a process that I put together to help people get more connected with themselves and who they are authentically. And it's important for folks that are going through job search, of course, for how we speak about ourselves. But it's also important in any kind of change where we can get grounded in our connection to who we are as a person. Like you're talking about earlier, Marilyn, that who we are, if our identity is wrapped up in one thing or another. My identity was wrapped up, and not in a bad way. I loved being married, and being a married person. That wasn't an identity that was a problem in and of itself, or being an employee in some place. But when things change and the identity changes, getting reconnected to who we are as a person, as a human,
Yes.
can be a very powerful thing to gain some confidence and also do that kind of putting the anchor down in rough seas. Right? Like if you're going through a storm, we can't see anything. How are we going to know where we're supposed to go or map anything?
Right.
Put the anchor down for a little bit, wait it out, not do nothing, but just figure out what we can figure out and being grounded. And then when the weather starts to clear a little bit, what are our options? So that's what the workbooks are for.
Well, and I think that's great. And I assume that those are on your website.
They're under the menu item free workbooks, I think.
Okay, that's good. That's an easy one. Well, it's like there was a calendar I got many, many years ago that had concise and pithy quotes for each month. And the one that I always remembered was this one: muddy water, let's stand, becomes clear. And I think that summarizes what you're saying. And then you wrote something here. You said neither of us are going to know exactly how this is going to turn out. We all want someone to fix the situation, make it stop, make it better. Amen to that, as soon as possible. But I want the fairy godmother, the pot of gold, the magic thinking, whatever. But there is a lot of importance in doing it from our own authentic place at the pace of the change, allowing for the mystery. And I think one thing I've taken away, and tell me if this is what you found, I have learned that the more authentic we are and the more authentically we can present who we are, the happier we are going to be with the results we get, because those who don't like what we are or don't feel it's a fit won't be drawn to us, whether it's work or love or friendship. And those who do appreciate what we're bringing to the table will be the ones drawn to what we are showing authentically in the world. Does that resonate, or is that just my own little weird thought from some life experience?
It's not weird, Marilyn. And I think that it's very, I don't know. I think what you spoke to there are what we all deep down want to have reflected back to us.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's okay. I let people know, for example, that I put Valentine's Day dresses on my dogs, and it's okay if people think that's weird. But if people like it, we'll embrace that. And the people that do the eye roll, well, I wouldn't want them over anyway. So, I mean, whatever it is, talking to your dogs or your cats, or, the gardening, or just, being a more outspoken person or a quieter, contemplative person. But as we sit in the uncertainty.
Yes.
And as we think about what we are wanting and let those muddy waters let stand and become clearer, they start to sort themselves out. And I also think it's important, just from life experience, we need to listen to our gut as well. Listen for the red flags, listen for the feelings of alarm or concern. Now, we're almost out of time, so I want to put this back to you to say, is there any other thought, advice, nugget that you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Well, if anybody's going through this change and transition time, it's totally natural. It's uncomfortable. It's difficult. And it's part of being alive and part of being here. And we both have someone in common, Seth Elner, who's a trauma therapist.
Yes.
He said to me one time, he said, life is going to change all the time, right? And I was like, yeah. And he said, isn't it better to do it with some help?
Yes.
And then it's like, absolutely. And that could be me. It could be your friends and family and me. It could be, whoever. But we're in this together.
Yes. And I think it's important to be around people. That's why with the pet grief group, it's been so important to so many people, for example, to have people that understand, whether it is a coach, whether you are with a group. It's so important. There's so much more we could talk about. We'll have to have you come back for a follow-up at some point. But in the meantime, it is just about time to sign off. So you've been listening to Aubrie de Clerck. Her business is Coaching for Clarity, and she helps people through those transitional times in their lives. Please visit her website, coachingforclarity.net. I'm Marilyn Milano. It's been a pleasure, Aubrie, to have you on the show.
Thanks, Marilyn.